Computational theory of mind. Computationalism. From ancient curiosity to modern cognitive science. For as long as humans have been capable of reflection, we have wondered what makes us who we are. What distinguishes us from other animals? What is the nature of the mysterious thing we call the mind? These questions have shaped centuries of philosophy, science, and introspection. Over time, various theories have attempted to explain what the mind is and how it works. Among the most influential and controversial is the computational theory of mind, also known as computationalism. Computational theory of mind asserts a bold idea. The mind literally is a computational system. To understand how we arrived here, we must trace a long lineage of thought that prepared the ground for this paradigm. From Hobbes to Turing, the road to a computational view of mind. Early theorists laid the foundation for the computational perspective. Thomas Hobbes, writing in the 17th century, famously claimed that reasoning is a kind of calculation. By reasoning, I understand computation, he wrote, suggesting that to reason is to add and subtract ideas just as numbers are manipulated in arithmetic. Though expressed in pre-digital language, Hobbes anticipated a view that would flourish centuries later. Other philosophers framed the mind in very different terms. René Descartes' dualism sharply separated the mind, a non-physical substance, from the body, a physical machine. Physicalists, by contrast, later argued that everything, including the mind, is fundamentally physical. Functionalists took a middle path. Mental states are not defined by what they are made of, but by what they do, their functional roles. Centuries later, Alan Turing extended Hobbes's insight. He showed that any symbolic algorithm executed by a human can, in principle, be replicated by a Turing machine. In other words, the operations involved in human analytical reasoning could be described computationally. These philosophical and mathematical developments set the stage for computational theory of mind, or CTM, or what is often called by philosophers as computationalism. What CTM actually claims? CTM begins with a deceptively simple claim. What distinguishes a mind is not the material it is made of, nor even its external behavior, but the computational organization of its internal information processes. According to CTM, the mind is an information processing system physically realized in the neural circuitry of the brain. Cognition consists of the manipulation of mental representations, computations carried out on mental states that encode information about the world. These processes include receiving input from the environment, transforming and storing that information, retrieving it, and producing a behavioral output. Under this view, all reasoning, deductive, inductive, or abductive, reduces to computation. Abductive reasoning is particularly notable. It begins with incomplete information and infers not necessarily always the possible explanations, but rather the most plausible explanations. Abduction is central to scientific discovery, medical diagnosis, and solving everyday problems, and CTM claims these too are ultimately computational operations. More broadly, computationalists argue that not only cognition, but also aspects of consciousness and qualitative experience, qualia, may be explained by computational organization. If so, then any system, biological or artificial, that implements the same computational structure could, in principle, possess a mind like that of the humans. This last point is what makes CTM both revolutionary and provocative. CTM versus the mind as computer metaphor. CTM is often confused with the mind as computer metaphor, which simply compares the mind to a modern digital device. That metaphor suggests the brain is the hardware and the mind is the software. But CTM is far more ambitious. It doesn't merely liken the mind to computation. It claims that the mind is a computational system in a literal sense, not an analogical one. In this stronger form, computationalism implies that a sufficiently accurate computational simulation of a mind would amount to an actual mind, whether implemented via symbolic algorithms or artificial neural networks. And this is also why CTM is considered a species of functionalism. What matters is the functional organization, not the physical substrate. Thus, a human mind and an advanced AI system may be structurally different, but functionally equivalent. And if we accept CTM as the correct understanding of mind, it follows that advanced AI may one day become indistinguishable, in principle, from a human mind. What CTM does not claim. Despite its ambitious scope, CTM does not assert that the mind is a programmable device, or existing computers already possess minds, or any arbitrary computer can generate consciousness. Rather, CTM holds that a mind arises only from a sufficiently complex computational organization. This might involve a unified assembly composed of many subsystems, each carrying out a domain of mental activity, perception, memory, language processing, reasoning, belief formation, motor control, and more. These subsystems interact such that the output of one becomes the input of another, forming a vast network of computational processes. In essence, the mind is an emergent property of an entire computational architecture. Philosophical challenges and open questions. While CTM remains influential, it is far from settled. The theory raises profound questions that continue to fuel debate. What does it mean for the mind to perform computations? Does computation refer to strict, rule-based symbolic manipulation, as in classical Turing machine interpretation? Or can it refer to any form of information processing, including analog, probabilistic, and continuous dynamics? This distinction divides classical computationalism from more general forms such as connectionism, which models cognition through artificial neural networks. How much of the mind is computational? Some theorists argue that only high-level cognitive functions, reasoning, language, problem-solving, fit the classical computational paradigm. Others maintain that perception, emotion, and motor control involve processes that are either non-computational or only computational in a looser sense. Could a machine genuinely think? If thinking is computation, then machines capable of similar computations should be able to reason, decide, solve problems, perceive, and understand language. But whether computational processes alone can give rise to subjective experience remains hotly contested. Are mental computations digital, analog, or hybrid? Neural activity appears continuous and analog in many respects, whereas classical computation is discrete and digital. CTM must address whether the brain's operations can be meaningfully mapped onto computational models. What variant of CTM is correct? Classical CTM? Strong interpretation? Cognition is symbolic, rule-based computation? Connectionism? Generic interpretation? Cognition arises from distributed information processing, often realized through neural networks? Strictly biological interpretation of computation, which is the subject of studies in neuroscience? Other hybrid or dynamic systems theories propose even broader views. Conclusion. CTM and the Future of Minds, Human and Artificial. The computational theory of mind stands as one of the most powerful frameworks for understanding cognition. It integrates insights from philosophy, neuroscience, computer science, and artificial intelligence. By proposing that mental processes are computational, CTM helps explain how complex reasoning, perception, memory, and even consciousness might arise from physical systems. But CTM is not merely an abstract theory. It carries real implications. If minds are computational, then artificial systems designed to implement the same computational structures may one day achieve genuine understanding or even consciousness. The line between natural and artificial minds may blur or disappear entirely.
Whether CTM turns out to be wholly correct, partially correct, or fundamentally mistaken, it provides a compelling foundation for exploring some of the deepest questions about who we are, how we think, and whether intelligence, biological or artificial, can ultimately be understood in computational terms.